Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Oren. This is the game of money where sick days are work days. So here we are, because why? Money never sleeps. I guess that's the thing that we're led to believe. But anyway, today we're going to get into the hidden world I'm going to expose you to where a $300 million loss still gets you promoted. Only in the deep economy, which I'm banging my drum on this week, you can make a huge miss of $300 million and still end up a hero. I'm going to explain to you why. So what's inside today's playbook or Game of Money podcast? Very simple. The $300 million pat on the back, as it's known. And also, how to skip the bank loan meat grinder. That's a lot of words put together. NBA doublespeak. The bank loan meat grinder. What I mean is, if you want a loan from a bank, whether it's $2 million, $10 million, $50 million, you are going into the meat grinder. And so I'm going to show you the institutional funding channel that your competitors don't know exists. So let's dive in. And look, I know most people that are my clients or my colleagues are facing not financing issues right now, but really we're in the middle of the year. So they're dealing with revenue issues. Pipeline panic, as I call it. I didn't get enough leads in June, so my July and August numbers are super bad or sad, or I'm not going to hit my numbers. I don't have enough pipeline. The other thing I see companies dealing with in July, moving into August, dead summer, halfway through the year, all your plans have gone sideways, cattywampus, backwards, not perfect. The funnels have worked at the beginning of the year, now they're starting to stall out. Deal committee hell. You have deals that you've sold, everybody agrees to or signed off on, now they've gone to committee, and they're stuck in committee, and you can't get it out in committee. I have a $500,000 deal right now, stuck in committee. Nothing I can do. I actually have a $1.5 million deal stuck now in committee. I can't talk to them. I can't push it any further. There's nothing else I can do. It's just in deal committee hell, right? And so people are facing that. And the other thing is, hey, we need more salespeople to scale our business. Like, our funnels work, we get leads in, our product is good, we have good margin, we have good conversion rates, but this is not an automated hacker funnel. We need salespeople to sell. And so where do we get good salespeople? You put out an ad, you start networking, no good salespeople. There's a reason for that. Can't get into this time, but those are the things going on. So I'm going to make all those problems go away on this Game of Money episode, or I'm going to try. So first, I wanted to let you know my 11-year-old doesn't give a ice cream lick in hell about your problems, because it's summer and he's out at camps and he's sliding down slippery slides. If you can imagine your mind, you know, a kid coming down one of those water slides and laughing and water's flying everywhere, and they run back up to climb the ladder and they go down the slide again. I mean, they'll do it 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. If you let them. That's summer fun. So I've been taking them to hockey camps, hockey tournaments. We went to Big Bear Lake, where there's this giant water park. It's amazing. And I'm seeing a lot more of regular America than I normally do. And what do I mean by regular America? Well, regular America is first of all, it's weird to me, right? Because it's no secret where I live is not regular America. Gas is $6 a gallon. You know, 5 G-Wagons and 2 Ferraris and 3 McLarens line up at every traffic light. The McLaren is the La Jolla Camry. So I just don't live in a representative middle America place. You know, I live on the coast. I'm not in Dubai, all right? Even though it sounds like Dubai, I do not live in Dubai. I live in Southern California. The people I work with are basically the villains from every romantic comedy you've ever seen. Like, who's the villain? Who's the bad guy in the romantic comedy? It's the investment banker. It's the corporate lawyer. It's the private equity manager. It's the fund manager. It's the banker, right? Those are the people I pal around with. That's my work. Like you know. So these guys never meet up at Whataburger or the Galaxy Bowling Alley. They don't. That's not where we go to meet. So therefore, I don't see a bunch of small American businesses in the day-to-day life I have. So it's really great going up to Big Bear Lake and seeing the bouncy houses on the lake and the small businesses that drive you know, a lot of America. So it's a lot of fun, and I appreciate the companies that make it possible. But man, these small businesses suck, right? Now, they're not suck because of the value they provide. They provide incredible value. You know, we enjoy using them, but they suck not because they're small. They are small. They don't suck because the owner has to wear 5 hats. That does suck. You know, it'd be nicer if he had a chief operating officer, chief financial officer, chief marketing officer, a risk compliance, chief risk officer, a VP of engineering. They don't have all that. They have to do all that themselves in these small businesses. And they don't suck because they're seasonal. They suck because they have zero access to working capital, right? If they need to do something, it needs to come out of revenue or savings. They cannot access working capital. So these businesses, these small businesses that we've been visiting over the summer, they live on the surface economy, where life is like a game of chutes and ladders. You remember this game from when you were a kid? You roll the dice and you move a couple steps, and if you go on a ladder, whoop, you zip up to the next line, right? And you're ahead of everybody. You roll the dice again. You go forward, you step on a chute, and woo, you go backwards, and you try and get to the end of the game. Chutes and ladders. You're not in control of your own destiny. It's random by the roll of the dice. On the surface economy, you roll the dice. In other words, you take risk. What is risk? Literally, it's rolling the dice, right? And if it's a good summer and you roll the dice, you go up the success ladder or you make money, right? Then boom, what comes along is big Trump puts on milk tariffs and you lose your biggest money maker, which is ice cream in the middle of summer. That's now a losing product for you. And then you slide down the chute and you lose money, chutes and ladders. So I get it. That's small business. Whataburger. That's not you. But you are very likely an SME, small to medium-sized business. So, and I don't want to insult you by calling you a medium-sized business. If you technically, medium-sized business goes up to like $250 million. So you could be happily running a $50 million, $80 million, $100 million business and going, oh, right? And you're thinking you're the guy, Matthew McConaughey from Wolf of Wall Street. You're cock of the walk running a $50, $80, $75 million business. That is a small to medium-sized business. Big business is something different, as we're going to talk about. So small to medium-sized business, I don't care how big you are, that's what you are, have three major problems with money, getting access to capital. So it is a very slow process on the surface economy for small to medium-sized businesses to get money. It could take 90 to 180 days, 210 days to get a loan or significant financing done. Search costs for money, if you can do it faster, is very high. It's time consuming to search for the capital. You get yeses that then turn into no's. You get locked up. It's frustrating. Search costs are high. You have to have your whole finance team working on it, maybe even your CEO, and you're still working with SBA, venture capital, private lending angels, maybe private equity, but it involves everybody on your team, and the search costs are very high. And then at the end of the day, the money itself is expensive. It's 11 to 18% right now on the debt side for you at SMB to step into money, and it'll cost you a thumb and a middle finger if you want to raise equity. Money today is expensive. But big businesses do not have these headaches. Companies that are more sophisticated in their finance function don't wait in line, they don't fill out forms, or pitch to committees. They just plug into not the surface economy, right? That's where it's expensive, that's where it's slow, that's where search costs are high. They plug into the deep economy. That's the money machine where you go and extract capital you need in rapid, high-frequency transactions. So there's a reason we have these two economies. And you've listened to Macro Voices or other macroeconomic podcasts. You already know the answer, but I'm going to explain to you what it boils down to. We in America should have bad credit on the world stage, right? But we don't. We owe $9 trillion to other countries, and our debt is growing very rapidly, and our income to debt ratio is very high. Compared to how much we earn and how much other companies earn against their debt ratios, we should have bad credit, right? Like Argentina or Brazil or who else do I kind of thinking of? Colombia. We should have bad credit like those other countries that have very high debt to income ratios, but we don't. So we're running a bit of a con on the rest of the world, on everyone else. Despite being the world's biggest debtor, $9 trillion in debt to other countries, America still gets to borrow money whenever we want it at super cheap rates. So here's my quick way of explaining it. It's like you have $500,000 in bad debt, credit card debt, right? You have school loans on top of that. You're unemployed, and you go and Chase offers you a 2% mortgage, right? 2% interest rate on a mortgage with no money down. That would be an amazing deal, right, if you were upside down like that. But Chase doesn't do that. They understand you have bad credit. But us in the world, even though we have this unattractive credit profile, we still get super cheap money. So this works for three reasons. The dollar is the global reserve currency, right? Enough said. Everyone needs dollars. So what that means is everybody needs dollars to trade, right? If you're doing a deal in Azerbaijan, you have a client in Baku, you have another client in Italy, you have another client in Sweden, and you have three clients in this really weird country or economy called Baltimore, right? You need dollars. Everybody was happy to trade in dollars, right? Sweden is not going to trade in whatever the currency of Montenegro is. Everybody's going to trade in dollars. So the great thing about for us is we can print dollars whenever we want. You know who can't print dollars? Montenegro, Sweden. By the way, there's 192 countries in the world, or 198. Like 58 of them are Africa. I'm not going to list all of them here. Belgium, France, Italy, England, Colombia, Belize, Russia. But it doesn't matter which country I name, none of them can print dollars except for us. Catch Me If You Can, he printed dollars, but you can't do that anymore. Like, they know what they're doing. Nobody can print dollars except the U.S. government, and we can print dollars whenever we want. So that's the deep economy. It defines it specifically, which is low-cost money. Any other country with America's debt levels would be paying 15 to 20% interest rates. We pay 4 to 5%. That is what I mean by deep economy. Cheap or free money. In fact, that 4 to 5% interest rate is called the free money rate. Right? That's what economists call it. That's what banks call it. That's what private equity guys call it. The 4 to 5% rate, which is the current lending rate from the Fed, is the free money rate. So here's why you and other small to medium-sized businesses, I'll just call you a medium-sized business. I know you don't like being called a small business. I don't either. The free money rate flows through specific channels that medium-sized businesses can't plug into. You do not have direct Treasury access. No brainer. I'm not going to get into that. There's only 22 primary dealers, which are the big banks, that can buy directly from Treasury at 4 to 5% rate. The corporate bond market, I'm assuming you cannot stick a $100 million bond into the corporate bond market, right, with investment grade credit. And so you can't issue those bonds at near Treasury rates. You can't access the corporate bond markets, and you can't access the repo markets. Overnight lending between major institutions using Treasury securities as collateral. You can't do any of that. That's why you can't get that 5% money. So the medium business reality is JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Mellon Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, whatever, access the cheap money, then they add, 8% markup before it reaches you. Always. That's why it costs you 13, 14, 15%. So these banks aren't evil, they're just running a business. They're covering the cost of underwriting your individual risk. They're covering the cost of branch networks and loan officers and having buildings and, answering the phone and everything like that. I know they do answer the phone in Malaysia and the Philippines, but like 1 out of every 10 calls, somebody's like, Bank of America, hi, this is Jim. And I'm like, Jim, take my number down. Don't hang up. Do not hang up on me. He's like, why would I hang up on you? I'm like, please. I can't believe, where are you? He's like, I'm in Phoenix. I'm like, you're in Phoenix? This is amazing. Talk to me all day long. I love you. But anyway, so they operate branch networks and loan officers. And then they also have to have reserves for defaults, right? You're much riskier than Treasury bonds. You don't have a good credit rating as a medium-sized business. So they have to underwrite your risk, which is expensive. They have to operate, loan officers, and they have to have default reserves. So bottom line, the big corporations speak fluent Treasury market, financial markets, financial compliance, financial engineering. They know how to access these streams of capital. Medium-sized businesses speak, local bank managers, speak lower end of private equity. Every layer of translation between you and the Fed discount window auction adds a layer of cost. So the further you are away from the Treasury market, the more money costs you. So by definition, you want to get off the surface real economy and start heading for the Fed discount window auction. You're not going to get there, but you want to be a lot closer than where you are right now. So I'll give you an example of how rough life is on the surface economy. So this is what I call a tale of two economies. Jane and Michelle Newberry from Phoenix, Arizona, built their dream restaurant together. Little plates of, mustard-encrusted chicken and kale and chives or whatever the hell they make, right? They were on the front page of the Arizona Republic. Phoenix's next big culinary thing, it was called, right? But running a restaurant as a married couple is harder than it looks, and they made some bad decisions along the way. I don't know how you make a bad decision running a restaurant. Like, I'm kidding. Like, every decision is a bad decision. Like, running a restaurant is a bad decision. But anyway, they made some bad decisions about costs, and then eventually they changed their hit menu to try and attract younger, restaurant goers and Gen Alpha, but the new menu wasn't as good as the old menu, and they started losing money or not having as much customers. Gordon Ramsay, Kitchen Nightmares, he didn't show up to save the day, and they defaulted on their loans. $30,000 in a Chase credit card they defaulted on, and some other loans. So Jane and Michelle had personally guaranteed the business loans for the upscale bistro, in Old Town Scottsdale. When the restaurant died, even a divorce couldn't save them. They were both trapped by that financial event. They were both guarantors on the secured notes, and Michelle eventually told Jane, and this is super sad. I'm not going to cry now because I'm not feeling well, and and I got to move on quickly. But this is sad. Michelle eventually told Jane, every time I look at you, I'm reminded of our legal bills. That sucks. Like, that's sad, and it's harsh. So Michelle and Jane suffered public humiliation in their tight-knit Phoenix restaurant community, and their marriage was destroyed. Sad as hell. That's the surface economy for you. It punishes the risk takers, but rewards the rule followers who never try and do anything to grow their community, their city, their state, their country, right? And just nothing wrong with having a job, but if you take risk to try and grow, your regional economy, the punishment, the consequences shouldn't be so high. Mark my words. The surface economy system makes sure you never get to bat again. Your credit report becomes your scarlet letter, and the message on the surface economy is crystal clear. Take a big swing and a miss, and we'll make sure you never get another time at bat. It's not how America should work. Meanwhile, 100 feet underground in the deep economy, you can lose $300 million and smile about it. Remember this super criminal Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, from the FTX debacle? Election night, long before FTX, go back 9 years to 2016. Election night, 2016, SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, had built a custom trading algorithm at his hedge fund, the hedge trading firm they worked at, Jane Street. There's two of these big hedge funds or trading firms. One is Jump Street. I guess it's just Jump Trading. Jump Street was a TV show. Election night 2016, Sam Bankman-Fried had built a custom algorithm at his hedge trading firm called Jane Street to front-run the election results faster than CNN could call them to get ahead of election results, right? And through this, they were going to try and make $1 billion, right? So his manager approved it, the firm approved it, everything was signed off on, it was funded, and he bet billions of dollars that the markets would crater on a Trump win. It's a trade, and if the market breaks towards your trade, you make a ton of money. If it breaks away from your trade, then you have big problems. So SBF's algorithm worked for like 5 minutes, and then it stopped working and started unwinding fast. The market whipsawed in the opposite direction from the trade, and it started unwinding. And so he ended up, at the end of the day, when they added up all the money marbles and chalk, a $300 million loss, which is the biggest loss in Jane Street's history. I'm just going to say that again. $300 million loss, biggest loss in Jane Street's history. So, of course, Sam got fired, then he got sent to financial Siberia. Well, no, wait, he didn't. That's not what happened. He didn't get fired. He didn't get sent to Siberia. Instead, his boss called him into the office, into a meeting, and he says, that's exactly the kind of risk we'd like to see you taking. You did a good job here. I know from what you learned here, the next one will work, so keep on grinding. Let's go make it happen. What the actual beep? On the surface economy, a couple gets publicly destroyed and financially exiled for a $30,000 credit card default. The other guy loses $300 million, gets a corner office and a bigger war chest to go out and risk more at the $300 million level. If there's not a better example of the surface economy and the deep economy than that. The deep economy has financial structures designed to let you play big. They want you to take massive swings in the deep economy because that's where real money gets made. Where would the current AI that you're enjoying, that comes from a deep economy swing, right? They couldn't be done on the surface economy. The whole internet couldn't be done on the surface economy. And so the deep economy is where you can get money and financial structures designed to let you play big. Can't say it any better than that. So if you have to ask, about this and the amount of time I spend on this, you're correct. My colleagues, the people I don't work, do not like these podcasts. They do not like the emails I send out on this because if I tell you about it, it just adds more people to the deep economy playground where the cool kids of private equity get to run around doing pretty much anything they want at close to the free money rate. So, they don't love it when I'm adding people to the deep economy, and especially people who don't know what they're doing. But I do recommend you jump off the surface in the deep economy. I'm happy to take you with me. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to show you exactly how to slip into this world. You get in this world It will solve all your pipeline problems. It will solve all your salespeople problems. It will solve all your conversion problems, all your stuck deal committee problems, because you'll have access to money. I don't care what happens to a deal that dies in committee if I have enough capital to learn from that experience and move forward in the business. Access to capital is the name of the game. So if you want to be in the financial Narnia that I just described, step one, accept that this world exists and that you're not in it. I'm not an AA or NA, but this is FA or FUA, Financial Anonymous. Accept that a world exists that you're not in, and that world is much closer to the free money rate than you are. Step two is decide that you're done playing small ball. I decided a couple years ago now that I'm going to add $100 million to my own net worth. I jumped off the surface into the deep end of the pool, and I can tell you I'm way past that on paper, having met those goals. Decide on your own that you're done playing small ball. Step three, learn how to get around the gatekeepers that hold you back from entering the deep economy without setting off their perimeter alarms. Once the perimeter alarms go off, they don't allow you down there. So the question is simple. If you're involved with funding companies, so if you have portfolio companies, if you're in a company, if you're allocating capital to deals, if you're in a fund, are you ready to stop getting financially face-laughed by the non-deep economy, the surface economy, and start playing where the real money moves into real companies? Because I'm about to show you the door to the deep economy. To do that, you're going to join my, coming up, I've got this small, intimate webinar. This is not for everybody. It's not for beginners. It's not for if you just want more education on this. Only register for this, by the way, if you're already funding companies and are already involved in capital formation. There's a link below. On August 13th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, I'm holding this small, intimate webinar for people who are involved with allocating capital, and I'm going to get them into the deep economy. So the link is below. I'll see you next time in the Game of Money. Hopefully I won't be sick next time, but it doesn't matter. Money never sleeps, sick or not. You got to do this stuff. I'll see you on August 13th for the Deep Economy webinar. Make sure to join me next week when I'm going to be doing the exact same thing in a different way, different stories, a little bit of different angle on what the deep economy does, what the advantages of it are. So join me here, and I will see you then on the Game of Money.